on October 1st,
Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes are approved. First item of new business is we've had a complaint filed by Mr. Ollie Dixon, and we want to briefly discuss that. Just about the representation at the vote centers.
Yes, sir, that is correct. There were actually two different complaints filed. One was about the representation of minority poll workers, or an invitation to the same. And then also with regard to some perceived friction on turn in reports at the voter registration board with regard to absentee ballots and registration and things of that nature. After investigation, it was found that although there may have been some unpleasant words spoken back and forth, all the reports that were presented by Mr. Dixon were ultimately accepted on the same day that they were presented. And that process has been worked out. With regard to the other issue, I don't have any additional information on that.
Wow.
Go speak.
Can I have a question? Rebecca Crumbs, I just wanted to know, was he notified? Because I had spoken to him several days ago and he never mentioned this meeting.
It was just put on for discussion online.
We're gonna, it's not the notice to adjudicate this issue today. It's a discussion only item.
Oh, okay, so the process is that when you're just in discussion that
We can't make the final decision today because he wasn't notified to come in and
right,
verbalize or present evidence as to the nature of this complaint. I would be asking the board to authorize me to send him a letter indicating what has been done with regard at least to the second issue that I just brought up.
oh, okay,
And in hopes that would settle the issue. And then the first issue, again, I don't have any information on that.
okay, thank you.
That second issue was as to the absentee.
Yes, that was the reports that were being filed. Yes. Yeah.
Voter registration.
The only thing I remember about that is I was concerned about it, because we're being accepted. I sent an email to the clerk, to maybe the board members, maybe you, I don't remember, it's been too long. And then I was advised or assured that those forms, the federal forms of registration will be accepted. Correct.
And they,
So,
No forms were rejected by the.
but I think what you're suggesting in terms of the letter being sent out to Mr. Dixon is appropriate. I was concerned about this one to be accepted. Sure the word was my understanding where I didn't see any complaints come forward after that. I think you should notify Mr. Dixon if he still wants to have a hearing on the matter, then we'll have a hearing. That's my notify.
Actually, voter registration office. We see,
Well,
but
the one thing
we can deal with it.
Yeah.
Do we have consensus then for Mr. Graham to send letters, Mr. Dixon? Good with that? Yeah.
Do what you tell.
And then, on the other issues, send him a letter and we will have a meeting in January. Okay.
Very well.
We'll determine that date and get with you.
Get that worked out in general.
Thank you, sir. Okay, at this time, I've appointed a proxy for the next item on the agenda, that'll be Connie Gardner. I'm going to step aside.
Okay, thank you very much. I think also, the chairman has asked me to serve as temporary chair for this particular
That's
next
correct.
item on the agenda, which is the Catherine Callahan complaint, which has been filed. And, I just want to put on Jeff, the August, we've said
August 7th,
August 7th, 2024 complaint. And what I'd like to do as chair is just sort of lay out how I want to proceed on this, which is it was complaint filed by Captain Callahan, I see this.
Yes, sir.
So I'm gonna allow the complainant to do the presentation if you will first, let them get completely through. And then, the complaint, as I understand it, is, to the Madison County Lincoln Club. And then we'll allow the Madison County Lincoln Club, their representatives to make their presentation. As we go along, members of the board may have questions for the witnesses who come before us. I would ask that no member of the public please speak unless you are called upon. Come forward to the podium and speak as part of the presentations that are being made. After the presentations are fully presented, then we'll have more discussion at that time and decide how we're going to proceed. So, are you ready to proceed?
Yes, before we proceed, I just want to make sure that everybody's microphones are on and everybody's speaking loud enough for the public to hear before we proceed. I know that's always been a big problem, that not everybody can understand what's being said. So as long as we're doing that, I'll let you go ahead.
Okay. Ms. Callahan retained me as her attorney.
Jeff, for the record, please state who you are.
Absolutely. Lorraine White.
What's your address?
My home address, okay, 2629 Lindbergh Road, Anderson, Indiana, 46012. The Madison County Lincoln Club is a political action committee. Upon information and belief, the officers of the Lincoln Club are Russ Willis, the president, Pete Hewer, the vice president, Anthony Emery, the treasurer, Alan Moore, a board member, and Rob Steele, also a board member. The Lincoln Club holds an annual event called the Lincoln Dinner. Willis's September 2nd, 2022 letter, provided as Exhibit F and G to Exhibit 3, states that the purpose of this dinner is to gather together to fellow and dine with like-minded Republicans. The Lincoln Dinner serves as a fundraising event for the Lincoln Club. Each year, the Lincoln Club sells tickets individually or as part of a sponsorship package. Dinner sponsorships are available for $200 for 2 tickets, and table sponsors are available for $400 for 8 tickets. As part of its marketing efforts, the club adds both information of both table and dinner sponsors to their programs. Petitioners providing information obtained regarding the 18 table sponsors in 2020, the 23 table sponsors in 2023, and the 30 table sponsors in 2024. A list of these sponsors has been provided as Exhibit I and H to Ms. Callahan's complaint, Exhibit 3, and as Exhibit 1, respectively. The Lincoln Club and its officers knowingly failed to itemize contributions. Disclosure of money raised and spent in elections has been the bedrock of our political system for years. Voters deserve to know who is funding political communications so that they may evaluate and the full content of the message. Voters need to know who has spent money to elect or defeat officials in order to hold those office holders accountable and prevent corruption. For instance, the public is entitled to know where the funds for flyers, such as the one provided in Exhibit 2, came from.
I'm having trouble following you. Some of see tabs, see two, is that what you mean?
Yeah, Exhibit 2. When I said Exhibit 2, that's what I meant.
I can't hear.
So we were probably following the complaint, the exhibits in the complaint, is that what you were telling us to? Okay.
Those exhibits are marked as A, B, C, D, E, and F.
Thank you.
Justice Kennedy, and the only portion of Citizens United that had the support of 8 of the 9 justices, noted the importance of disclosing the sources of campaign spending. He wrote that disclosure provides the electorate with information, makes sure that the voters are fully informed about the person or group who is speaking, and ensures the people are able to evaluate arguments to which they are being subject. As the board is aware, the Indiana statute provides that contributions above $100 per person must be itemized. Indiana Code 39514 states, Itemized contributions are those contributions received by a candidate's committee from a contributor whose individual contribution or cumulative aggregate contributions exceed $100 during a calendar year. Here, the evidence provided shows that a number of individuals and committees made contributions above the $100 threshold. However, these donations were not itemized on the CFA 4 filed by the Lincoln Club in 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, or 2024. Luckily, numerous other candidates and committees followed the statute and disclosed these contributions. These contributions made by other candidates or committees can be found in the CFAs on file at the Madison County Clerk's Office, and several of those parties or committees listed their contribution to the Lincoln Club. This is not an exhaustive list of the contributions made. In fact, the petitioner would have no way of knowing all the contributions made as they were not properly itemized. First, I'd like to draw your attention to page 5 of the CFA 4 filed by the Committee to Elect Linda Smith, dated October 19th, 2022. That's Exhibit 3J. Here you can see that the Committee to Elect Linda Smith donated $400 to the Madison County Lincoln Club on October 14th, 2022. A review of the CFA 4 filed by the Lincoln Club shows no corresponding contribution from the Committee to Elect Linda Smith. The evidence provided shows that the following committees also made contributions above the $100 reporting floor for the years 2021 through 2024. Pierce for Indiana, $400.99 in 2021. Committee to Elect Larry Davis, $400 in 2022. Committee to Re-elect Rodney Cummins, $400 in 2022. Committee to Elect Judge Dudley, $400 in 2022. Committee to Elect Bob Cherry, $220 in 2022. Committee to Elect Bob Cherry, $260 in 2023. Mandrell for Indiana, $400 in 2024. As you can see, these committees clearly contributed more than the reporting floor, yet none of this information has been itemized on the CFA 4 filed by the Lincoln Club. In fact, the Lincoln Club CFA 4s failed to provide the amount contributed by each candidate or committee, as well as the full name and mailing address of the contributors. Instead, in 2024, R. Willis filled out the contributions by individuals by listing the contributor as Lincoln Dinner and the amount as $14,820. Similarly, in 2023, R. Willis provided the contributor as Lincoln Dinner and the amount as $8,250. In 2022, R. Willis listed the contributor as Lincoln Dinner and the amount as $7,600. In 2021, R. Willis listed the contributor as Lincoln Dinner and the amount as $8,845. Finally, in 2020, A. Emery listed the contributor as Lincoln Dinner and the amount as $7,770. As a note, the Lincoln Dinner is not an entity, corporation, or a person in the state of Indiana. While I believe it references an event, the Lincoln Club officers represented it as a person. This failure to disclose contributions ensures that the public will not be able to see who is funding the activities of the Lincoln Club. The information provided above shows that even with investigation, there are a number of donations that have gone unreported, as the person or group donating may not be required to report themselves. This outlines the importance of the Lincoln Club PAC to disclose all donations made to it within the statutory guidelines. A person who knowingly files a fraudulent report commits a level 6 felony and is subject to a $10,000 fine, 2 1/2 years imprisonment, or both. Indiana Code 314-113. The evidence presented shows that the Lincoln Club officers, Willis and Emery, both provided fraudulent information when failing to properly fill out and file CFA 4s for the Lincoln Club. Both Willis and Emery have experience and knowledge in the filling out and filing of campaign finance forms. Willis has been the Madison County Republican chair for over 10 years and was a city councilman in Anderson from 2012 to 2015. During his tenure, Willis has informed numerous candidates that he would assist them with their own CFA forms if they had questions or needed assistance. Additionally, during his tenure as Republican chair, Willis has sat as a member of this election board, the very board tasked with the enforcement of these campaign finance/election laws. The election board has historically investigated campaign finance violations and has taken action as outlined in state statute regarding these violations. For instance, in 2023, the election board conducted investigations, issued correspondence, and ultimately issued fines to candidates and committees who were delinquent on filings of their campaign finance forms. Needless to say, Willis is knowledgeable regarding campaign finance/election laws. Additionally, Lincoln Club Treasurer Anthony Emery has shown that he understands and is able to correctly fill out a CFA, as he did so with his own campaigns in 2018, 2020, and 2023. These forms clearly show that Emery was aware of the campaign finance rules and regulations and was able to follow them in the past. In fact, in both 2018 and 2019, Emery made a contribution of $1,000 to the Lincoln Club. If you look at Exhibit 4, tab A and B, you can see those listed contributions. And in 2020, he made a contribution of $100, which he also itemized on his own CFA form. And you'll find that under Exhibit 4, tab C. The duties of the election board. Each year, the Lincoln Club, by and through its officers, filed a CFA-4 with the Madison County Clerk's Office. These CFA-4 forms were stamped by the Clerk's Office, and although they were blatantly and openly defective, Madison County Clerk and the Madison County Clerk is a member of the election board. No investigation was ever performed until Ms. Callahan filed this complaint. In fact, after the filing of Ms. Callahan's complaint, several entities, including the Herald Bulletin, reported that additional candidates and committees had similar violations. Specifically, on August 17th, 2024, Ken Delabastide wrote, "Traditionally, the Lincoln Club and Democratic Party have not itemized contributions during such events as golf outings and traditional yearly campaign events." A copy of that article can be found as Exhibit 5. Although the newspaper seems to believe this is commonplace, upon information and belief, no investigation into any other candidate or committee with similar CFA violations has been initiated by the election board. Indiana Code 31453 provides that the election board has a duty to report these violations to the prosecuting attorney, and I've provided you with that section. Finally, the issuance of a finding of fact by this board today constitutes an investigation and provides the basis by which a county prosecutor may act to bring criminal or civil charges, or the Indiana Attorney General may act to bring civil charges. Conclusion and findings. 1, it is clear from the evidence presented that the Lincoln Club, more specifically Russ Willis and Anthony Emery, the officers who filled out and filed the CFA forms in 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, and 2024, violated Indiana Code 39514. Based on the information and evidence, it is clear that the Lincoln Club, and more specifically Russ Willis and Anthony Emery, the officers who filled out the CFA forms in 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024, did so knowingly. Pursuant to Indiana Code 314.113, both Russ Willis and Anthony Emery have committed a level 6 felony and are subject to a $10,000 fine and 2.5 years imprisonment or both. The Madison County Election Board shall refer these officers to the Madison County Prosecutor for criminal charges in accordance with Indiana statute. The Madison County Election Board shall refer these officers to the Indiana Attorney General for civil prosecution in accordance with the Indiana statute. As a side note, I want the board to be aware, should the election board fail to follow the Indiana statutes, the petitioner is fully prepared to assert her rights and move forward with a petition for review. Of note, the court in Callis versus Lake County Board of Elections and Registration made clear that were the decisions of an election board contrary to law, the court will give no deference to the local election board's interpretation of the statute and will review the case de novo.
My concern here, as everybody is flipping through these pages, is I'd like to know how much the clerk has found other areas that Russ has not reported an itemized bill. Have you gone through all of this? Not for you, don't have to answer. Have you gone through all of the different reports looking to see what else hasn't been reported on his? We have a couple other people who are in seat who did not itemize their bills either. So this will give us a direction on where we need to go from here. When you have dark money and you allow that dark money to send out flyers that are false, that lie about an individual who holds a doctorate's degree and owns her own professional practice, I will not stand for that. And I will follow this through until it is completely done. Because I will never allow someone to put out nonsense. All of you can talk about my page, but every piece of my page, I support it with a receipt. He has not done that. He took the monies that you donated and he put out false information on several people. That is wrong. Today, you will show this county, will lightness prevail or will the corruption of darkness? If this doesn't get cleaned up, you will never be able to hold anybody accountable on finance reports in this county ever again. Because you have let the leader of the entire county do whatever he wants with finance reports. If you've read the paper today, you see Diego Morales is under investigation for that. You're seeing this go nationally, that people are under investigation for how they're reporting their elections and their finances. This will come back if he's not held accountable. So we'll see how you guys decide today.
Any questions for either one of the people that testified? And do you have any additional witnesses? I have one question in regards to whether or not this has to be, whether or not it rises to the level of a level 6 felony. The statute is, again, for 314.113 says a person who knowingly files a report required by ICT9, which is fraudulent commits a level 6 felony.
Correct.
And so your evidence that these reports were filed knowingly, fraudulent is wrong.
My evidence is that the Republican chair who holds himself out to be an expert tells people that he knows how to file the reports, will help them file the reports, sits on this election board, and is the one who votes on people who don't file reports properly, should know how to file a report.
This is based upon his, what he should know.
It's based upon his knowledge and experience.
All right, if you have no further witnesses, then refer to the working club. If they have a presentation.
Ignorance of the law is no excuse.
Good afternoon. I am Russ Willis, President of the Lincoln Club. We are a PAC, Political Action Committee, and have been for probably about 15 years. Several points I want to make in regards to this complaint. We're required to keep our records for 2 years, so that would be 23 and 24, 2023 and 2024. And in those years, 2023, the tickets were $60 a piece, and in 2024, they were $75 a piece. So a table would have been $480 or $600, depending on the year. But as has been indicated in an article in Herald Bulletin, which I was aware of the CFA4 for committees, for candidates, have filed as events. Put it all together and put it in. Many times, most of the time, to my understanding and knowledge, those were ticketed events under $100. So technically, they could have been filed under unitemized. We, the Lincoln Club, have always filed them as an event under itemized, just so we were being open as to where the money was and what the event was. With a ticket at $60 or $75, they're paid by individuals. Sometimes a candidate will get people to sit at their table, they'll collect them from them and give them to us, or write a check from their own committee. And that would seem to me to be a convenience, rather than writing 8 separate checks for $60 or $75, just write one check from the committee. If this was to the level of violation that's been accused, over 50 years of people looking at these reports, something would have come out, I would think. As long as I can remember, I've seen events, as was mentioned, from Democrats and Republicans, that this was the report. They would have a salad luncheon, they would have a reception, and whatever the event would call, a golf outing, and they would put it in as golf outing, reception, whatever. In our case, it's Lincoln dinner, and present one amount. So maybe our error was doing it under an itemized page rather than the unitemized page, because the ticket's always been under $100. Several candidates will collect individually from the people for the tickets and then either turn those in to us or individually tickets, or they will write one from their campaign, depending on how people wrote the checks. We have that the night of the event. People will come in and hand in 6, 7, 8 checks, and they're all made out individually. But yet they're listed as a sponsor, which then when you correlate that with the invitation letter, it looks like they contributed $400 or $600. But that's not necessarily the case. As far as investigating finance reports by this board, and I was the one who did it, we have enforced and issued fines based on the timely filing of these reports. I have seen several reports, I could mention names, but I won't, that had errors in their report. And we did not pursue those errors. I've never looked at the math. I didn't want to get into all that. That's a whole lot of work. Maybe we should. We might find additional things. There's never been any intent to hide or keep people from knowing. I mean, if we print a sponsor list, which that sponsor list is not all people who contributed financially. Some people are listed as sponsors for other reasons, and sometimes, honestly, their name is put on there just to give them more exposure to those attending the dinner. So that list is not accurate if you went into computing monetary contributions. So again, there's been no intent. Again, I learned about this event thing probably 30 years ago by looking at reports of candidates who had salad luncheons at $5 a pop. I'm talking in the 90s and early 2000s, $5 per luncheon. And their report showed $2,700 they raised at their luncheon. That's an awful lot of $5 salads. But, you know, we know people put out baskets, people put cash in, and it's all about an event report. So again, there's been no intentional trying to hide anything. Any questions?
I guess I have a question, just to make sure. Have you seen these exhibits that have been filed as to the reports of some of the candidates that filed and they list the Lincoln Club as the expenditure?
Yeah, probably as a table sponsor. Yes, I did see those, Mr. Lannon.
I just want to make sure I understand what you're saying, which is I'm just going to put that out here.
Mr. Lennon, we can't hear you.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm trying to speak up.
It's like your mic's not on.
I don't think it's on.
Because you're the most powerful speaker. You are the one we want to hear.
I don't know why, I don't know if this is captures of the broadcast of it, or if it actually.
We can hear Linda when she talks.
Okay, I'll speak up. I'm sorry. I've had some issues with my voice.
Thank you.
You can't tell. So I'll try to speak up for the benefit, but you should be able to hear us. Thank you. Okay, that might help. Thank you.
Yes, that was working.
So anyway, I'm looking at the committee to Larry Davis's report, where he does list the Lincoln Club, GOP, $400, says fundraiser GOP. Are you saying that in that case, I mean, the check was written by Larry Davis or by his committee for $400 to the Lincoln Club? It's not that he gathered, multiple checks and then turned them all in, and it was.
Some candidates gathered checks from the different people
You said
and
the
turned those in. Some candidates, like the Bob Cherry one that was mentioned in the previous testimony, his was like 260, and there was another one for 200. Not everybody pays the candidate. Some of them give him checks, and so he would turn in 260 from his committee and then turn in other checks from other people. And for convenience, my understanding would be for convenience, you'd write a check from your committee, and then people could write it to him, which would be unitemized because they're under $100.
Okay, but in each case for these committee reports, you agree that the Lincoln Club received a check from that entity, whether it was Larry Davis or Linda Smith or these other committees, these other
Yeah, and
committees.
That's likely why they reported it, because it was one check over 100.
And made out to the Lincoln Club by that committee, it was more than $100, correct?
Yes. And if we should have itemized each one of those, then we should have.
Now, when you say that for 50 years, this has been a practice, how do you know that?
Well, I read the Herald Bulletin article, and he said he'd been following it since the 70s, and I've been president of the Lincoln Club since at least 1999. So I have at least that 25-year reference. And then seeing reports and stuff previous to that would go back at least 8 or 9 more years before I was the acting president.
And you're saying the Lincoln Club has records that would demonstrate that that's the way this has been handled by the Lincoln Club?
We normally purge our records every 2.5 years as allowed by law here to record those. When I took over, yeah, there was multiple years of records, but those haven't been kept. But we do keep the prior 2 years as required by law.
Any other questions?
Why was I was looking through the CFA schedule, A1, there's different forms for individuals and committees. Why was this one put on as an individual? Why did you use the individual form? I noticed, is there any reason?
No particular reason, no, sir. It's what has always been used. And, again, we were saying this event, this amount of money was received based on events have always been logged in, reported as events, whether it be a golf outing or a reception. And again, if this was an issue, it should have come up sometime in the last 30 to 50 years.
I have a question.
Because
for
he
you.
hasn't got caught yet,
Yeah.
it's okay.
So you said that because there is a schedule for PACs, am I correct?
Correct. There's a schedule for PACs, all committees, political campaign committees, campaign committees, things like that. Although I think that this would be fair to say that number is
You gotta turn it
lumped in. There's some individuals write checks.
Can I go there?
Yes, many.
Notification
And
question.
then some
I can't.
PACs write to the Lincoln Club.
If we have
We have evidence of that.
If we have a contribution from a PAC, there is a separate page for that.
Okay, but what about a campaign committee, such as I noticed?
No, those would go under item.
Those go into that, okay. So the total income the Lincoln Club that was paid in would be located in 2 different places. One would be located on the individual form, the other would be located on PAC.
If there was a PAC, I think I only recall one time that a PAC had ever contributed.
But none in 2024 or 2023.
No. Anything else?
Any other questions? Mr. Wallace?
I do not have any questions for Russ.
Thank
Do
you.
you have any additional information or witnesses to present? Mr. Wallace?
No, just in summation, I would say there's never been any intent to report improperly. And experience, which was mentioned that I should know because of my experience, that's been my experience for over 30 years, is that events can be reported as events. And it's never been questioned. Thank you very much.
Are we allowed to make one statement? It'll be quick.
Briefly, yes.
After listening to Mr. Willis explain to you what his story is, I'd like to know then why from 2019 and before, he always itemized. Why did it change then? Why did suddenly, after 2019, did you stop itemizing? So for you to stand up here and lie,
Well, wait a minute, when you say you, we're talking about the Lincoln.
I'm talking about the Lincoln Club. He's always itemized before. He just stopped in about 2020.
Was he the head of the Lincoln Club before 2019?
You just say he's been there since 99. Don't lie to people.
Yeah, it's an old.
I just wanted to point out that the information provided to you by Mr. Willis had no support to it. He provided you no statutory support to it. He provided you no documentary evidence to support what he told you.
Did you want to respond, Mr. Wallace?
Yes, sir. Those reports obviously are still upstairs in the election board, the election room from the years that were mentioned, 2019 or whatever. Like I said, I took over in 1999 as president, and all the reports that have been filed from that point, there's never been any itemization for the Lincoln dinner. Other contributions would be itemized if we've had people give money over the years, and those would be itemized. But the Lincoln dinner has always been reported as an event. You can look at those reports.
Okay, so you've been the head of the Lincoln Club since 1990?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you've had a Lincoln Club dinner since 1992?
Every year, yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
But again, I can dig through my boxes of papers at home and see if we have any previous years. But again, I know I send out an email every 12 to 18 months to the other officers, say, can we get rid of the prior year's records? They're no longer statutorily required to be kept. And we get rid of those.
All right, does that conclude, I think that concludes the presentation on this complaint. And thoughts from the board?
Well, my question would be, so Ms. Callahan said that there was itemization before, for the Lincoln dinner, is that what you're saying?
On his reports, he knows he has to report over $100. I don't, take a recess and pull the file and bring it down here.
So well, I know we're going by the evidence that you presented, did you put that in your pack?
Well, no, I didn't know he was going to stand up there. We only, okay.
The statute only allows you to go back 5 years.
What
And
is
our-
that statute?
It's in her complaint. I'm sorry, I didn't bring my book up with me. The statute only allows you to go back 5 years. And so the information provided in Ms. Callahan's complaint only goes back to 2020. Doesn't go back any farther because that would be farther than 5 years, and quite frankly, you wouldn't be able to rule on it.
And here's my concern. This has been in your office for over 4 months. I would be investigating and looking through everything possible to see what's here today. The complaint was filed for you, so you should have been through his reports. You should have looked through everything. You should have all these answers at your fingertips. You should actually be able to tell us how many people filed and gave checks to the Lincoln Club over $100. You should have been going through every candidate's files and bringing all that information here today. You're the elected clerk. This is not the responsibility of the community. This is the responsibility of you.
We're having a hearing now.
Okay, well, for her to ask me to defend it,
No.
All I did was ask you if that was in your complaint, that's all I asked. And that's a yes or no.
And we
Well,
may be able to get those records.
in some
so
ways,
We'll do that.
But you're the clerk, and
I
you
am
should
the
know,
clerk,
and
I
you
just
should know.
came through a presidential election. Thank you. I
And you-
have been a little busy, Catherine.
And you,
Thank
and
you.
you should know whether or not we can go past the 5-year mark or we can't. The excuse is, I am too busy and I haven't been able to get there.
That is not
We're
an
done with it.
excuse. That is a
You're not
fact.
new.
That
The
is a fact.
fact is, you've been in an election
Okay,
position
that's
for a
good
while.
enough. Thank
Thank
you very
you.
much. We've
Please
heard-
be
we've heard
seated.
your comments. All right, I would be interested to see what prior reports say.
That would be
I mean, I
fine.
don't need to
We
do it
can
today,
gather
but
this.
I would like to see that. I was also interested, I did have a question for our council last year, that the statute of limitations on these matters. I had talked to folks down at the state, and they thought it was 2 years.
If it's in the complaint, I'll certainly look at it. I know the statute of limitations on fraud is 6.
Well, it is if we were a prosecutor
for
trying to file,
fraud,
a
right.
criminal
So,
case.
But those reports would go to the state of mind of the person that's subject to the complaint. So that they could be used as evidence by this board to look at our relaxed standards.
Indiana Code 354142 provides that the statute of limitations for level 6 felony is 5 years and 2 years for
That's
misdemeanors.
if we were filing a criminal case in a criminal court, correct? I understand that completely. The issue of what is this administrative body's statute of limitations to consider complaints that come before it? Can we go back to the age of Lincoln and take a look at, the reports at that time?
I believe you can go back as far as you'd like.
In other words, there's no statute of limitations. Well, that's what I need to know. I mean, we've got allegations going back to the year 2020. I know as an attorney, I couldn't go file a civil complaint for an automobile accident in August of 2024 that occurred in 2020. You'd agree with that, right? There are such things as statutes of limitations.
Agreed.
And this body needs to go by that. So that's a question that I would like to have answered. We can't exceed our authority. We're bound by the law too. Okay, so if there's anything else, I would ask them to take this matter of advisement this time to look at those records and get a clear answer on this matter of statute of limitations.
Is that your motion?
That's my motion.
I'll second your motion.
All those in favor of the motion? Signify by voting so loud.
Before we go, would you like to set a date and time certain for this one to continue so that the folks here will know about it?
It doesn't matter, what he did. It doesn't matter what he did, he's still in
Next
violation.
week's a little busy. How about, what's the preference?
We're looking into the new year, so.
How about January 8th? 1 o'clock.
1 o'clock on January 8th, what's that?
It's a Wednesday.
I won't be in town.
We'll need to hear the following one.
Yeah, I'll be back the following week.
Do you want to do the following one?
15th, January 15th.
Can you do it in the
It works
evening?
for me.
And the motion is to recess this matter until January 15th at 1 PM in the afternoon. Is that correct? That's the motion. Let's take a vote on the motion.
I'll second your motion.
All in favor, signify by saying aye. All opposed, the same sign. This is been adjourned to January 15th at 1 PM. Is there any other business coming before the board today?
I have
You have your hand up.
Yeah, the complaints that Councilman Dixon has, is it gonna be with this meeting or you gotta schedule a different
I guess
meeting?
we don't know. We're gonna contact him and see if he still wants to have a hearing on it.
Oh, okay.
Okay, there being no further business to come for the board, we are recessed until January 15th.
Good to see you.
Do what?
Good to see you.
Good to
again.
see you too. Yep. See you next time.
Yep.
you.